On May 31st, 1985, in Lexington, South Carolina, 17-year-old Shari Faye Smith left her home in the afternoon to check the mailbox. It was a short walk, just a few steps down the driveway, but she never made it back. Her car was found running with the door open, her purse still inside. There was no sign of a struggle, no immediate clues as to where she had gone. Panic set in quickly for her parents, Bob and Hilda Smith, as well as her older sister, Dawn Smith. Who knew Shari would never disappear willingly? Law enforcement arrived within hours. Sheriff James Metz led the investigation, calling in additional resources to help search the area. Helicopters, search dogs, and volunteers combed through the town, but there was no sign of Shari. Then, at 2:30 a.m., the Smith family's phone rang. Bob Smith answered. On the other end was a man with a calm, almost friendly voice. "Shari is with me," he said. The caller gave details about what Shari had been wearing and the specific way she had styled her hair that day. He didn't ask for money. He didn't explain why he had taken her. He simply let the family know he had her, and then he hung up. For the next 2 days, the man continued to call. Each time he spoke in a slow, deliberate tone, never raising his voice, never showing anger. He spoke about Shari in the past tense, as though she were already gone. Then, on June 3rd, Bob Smith checked the family's mailbox and found an envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter titled Last Will and Testament. It was in Shari's handwriting. The letter read, "I love you, Mommy and Daddy, and Dawn and Robert. I will be with my father now." Despite the chilling note, law enforcement continued their search, hoping that Shari might still be alive. Then, on June 5th, the phone rang again. This time, the caller gave precise directions to a wooded area in Saluda County, about 18 miles away. Investigators rushed to the location and found Shari's body. She had been left in a shallow ditch, already decomposing in the South Carolina heat. The coroner determined she had been suffocated, likely with duct tape covering her mouth and nose. The revelation was devastating, but the case was far from over. Less than 2 weeks later, on June 14th, another young girl disappeared. 9-year-old Debra Helmick was playing in the front yard of her home in Richland County when a car pulled up. Her little brother was nearby and watched as a man got out, grabbed Debra, and forced her into the vehicle before speeding away. It happened so fast that there was no time to react. Hours later, the Smith family's phone rang again. It was the same voice. "You'll find another one," he said. The next day, law enforcement received another call. The man gave directions to a wooded area about 10 miles from where Shari had been found. When police arrived, they found Debra's body, discarded in the same manner. She had also been suffocated. At this point, the FBI had joined the investigation. They had been tracing the phone calls, each one bringing them closer to the caller's location. The calls had all been made from a small area near Shealy Road in Lexington County. Then forensic experts analyzed the Last Will and Testament letter. They confirmed it was written by Shari, but they also noticed something else. Indentations on the paper suggested another document had been written on top of it. Using forensic techniques, investigators recovered an imprinted phone number. That number led them to a local electrician named Larry Gene Bell. Bell was quickly placed under surveillance. When officers arrived at his home, they found more damning evidence. Hair samples that matched Shari Smith, fibers that matched those found on Debra Helmick, and phone records confirming he had made the calls to the Smith family. When confronted, Bell did not confess, but he also didn't deny his involvement. His trial began in 1986, and prosecutors presented the overwhelming evidence against him. Bob Smith took the stand and read his daughter's final letter aloud to the jury. The courtroom was silent as he choked back tears. It took the jury just under an hour to convict Bell. He was sentenced to death. Larry Gene Bell remained on death row for over a decade. He made multiple appeals, but none were successful. On October 4th, 1996, he was executed in the electric chair at Broad River Correctional Institution in Columbia, South Carolina. To the very end, he refused to admit guilt. The case of Shari Smith and Debra Helmick remains one of the most disturbing in South Carolina's history, not just because of the brutality of the crimes, but because of the psychological torment Bell inflicted on the victims' families. Bob and Hilda Smith turned their pain into advocacy, working to support victims' families and helping law enforcement improve methods for tracking criminals like Belle. Their daughter's last words, written in that heartbreaking letter, became a lasting symbol of strength in the face of unimaginable tragedy.